What's going on, everyone? So, the San Antonio Spurs are favored to land Lauri Markkanen this offseason. You have the San Antonio Spurs, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Detroit Pistons, the Orlando Magic, the Golden State Warriors, and the Houston Rockets as the top teams to potentially trade for Lauri Markkanen this offseason. Out of everyone on this list, if I'm being honest, I actually think the Thunder make the most sense for Lauri Markkanen, and I actually think would make the Thunder pretty terrifying. I think Lauri Markkanen on the Thunder would be absolutely tough. But the Spurs are interested in Lauri Markkanen. And I also think Spurs make a lot of sense for Lauri Markkanen. Ultimately, it comes and boils down to what is the asking price for Lauri Markkanen, right? Like, what do the Utah Jazz look for? Right now, there's rumors that the asking price is 4 firsts. I don't believe Lauri Markkanen is worth that. 2 firsts and a player or something, sure. Right? If you had to trade, say Keldon Johnson and 2 firsts for Lauri Markkanen, I think you do that all day. Maybe Johnson and something else plus 2 firsts, or maybe a pick swap or something. I think you do that all day. But 4 firsts for Lauri Markkanen, I think the price is too high. Again, Lauri Markkanen, excellent player. I love what he does. 27 years old, so he's still young enough to where he can kind of fit in the Spurs timeline. And there is this incentive for San Antonio to not wait around, right? Victor Wembanyama was so good right out the gate. Victor was so good right out the jump, right? There is, yes, the hey, he's young enough to where we could take our time, spend the next 5 years really growing and slowly developing into a true contender and potential dynasty. But I think if the right moves are there and you're able to pull them off, I think you do it, right? If you can get Lauri Markkanen for a reasonable price, I think you do it, right? If you can turn San Antonio into a powerhouse immediately and not waste years of Victor Wembanyama being as great as he is, I think you do it. If you can win a championship with Victor in the next 3 years, why wouldn't you want to do that? Right? Especially as he continues to grow and develop, you're only going to get better. You're only going to improve. And then now you're just kind of making adjustments and whatnot, periodically throughout the course of his career and maintaining that level of championship. And I think Lauri Markkanen is definitely a piece that puts you that much closer. Now, obviously, Lauri Markkanen and Victor Wembanyama by themselves isn't enough to translate to an NBA championship, but again, I think he's a big piece that could put you in the right direction. His ability to play the small forward, his ability to play the 4. You can even have him as a stretch 5 because, he is a real 7-footer. Right? The guy is absolute lights out and money. Last year with the Utah Jazz, 55 games, he averaged 33 minutes a game. He shot 48% from the field total, 40% from 3-point range on 8 attempts, 55.9% from 2-point range, EFG of 57.8%. He shot 90% from the foul line on 5 attempts per game, gave you 8.2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and half a block with 1.4 turnovers, averaged 23.2 points. The previous year for Utah, he even averaged 25 points, 2 assists, 8.6 rebounds, 87.5% from the foul line, 58.5% from 2-point range, 39% from 3-point range on 7.7 attempts. He basically, difference between 2022 and 2023, he had a slightly higher overall field goal percentage, but he also took more shots per game. So that was the big difference as to why there was the 2.5 point discrepancy. But again, you pair Victor with Lauri Markkanen, now you have 2 bona fide 7-footers. Victor Wembanyama being 8'12", but in all seriousness, right? Now you got a guy that can stretch the floor. Him and Lauri Markkanen may even be able to help Victor Wembanyama kind of just become a better shooter, right? Victor, he has all the tools. We saw him shoot excellent and half stretches where he was, lights out from 3-point range, but he did have inconsistencies in his shooting. That'll come. It was a rookie. I'm not worried about it. But adding a sharpshooter like Lauri Markkanen at 7 feet alongside Victor, I think would only help Victor with his shooting and kind of help but just in general, help on the offense side, the defense side, right? I just think it'd take and make things easier for Victor, but also kind of help his offensive game, right? So I just think Lauri Markkanen, not only would he help with the on-court stuff, but I think he'd also help with the off-court stuff and, allowing Victor to properly develop his overall basketball game. And I mean, if Victor Wembanyama can shoot anything close to what Lauri Markkanen is shooting, I mean, now you're talking about a 40% three-point shooter on top of everything else that Victor Wembanyama can do. I mean, that's terrifying, right? And then, again, you have these constant mismatches on the floor. You'd be able to spread and space the floor, right? Also, I think Lauri Markkanen is a Spurs guy. I think he'd fit in beautifully, right? He's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands, which is another big thing, right? Like, because the thing is, like, you want to get the ball to Victor Wembanyama as much as possible, right? Like, that was one of the frustrating things watching the Spurs this past season, was how many times they just completely look off or ignore Victor. And the idea is you bring in a guard that now, maybe they go and trade for a Darius Garland, or maybe they draft somebody, whatever. Maybe they do bring in Chris Paul and go trade for a Lauri Markkanen and something else, right? Like, there's options and flexibility there on the direction that the Spurs can go. But, the beauty of adding a Lauri Markkanen is he's a guy that doesn't need 15 dribbles to get a shot off, right? He's a guy that's excellent in the catch and shoot. And Victor and his ability to pass out of the post, I think would be, imagine him just being able to kick out to a Lauri Markkanen out on the corners or out on the perimeter would just, come on, it's like unfair, right? And again, I just think you look at Victor and everything he was able to do on the offensive side, and you got to imagine he's only going to improve and get better and take another leap. I think Lauri Markkanen, I think he could make, because Victor shot 32.5% from three-point range last year, right, on 5.5 attempts. I think with just adding Lauri Markkanen, I think bare minimum Victor gets to like 35%, 36%. Just because, again, you have a guy that's not just a guard shooting threes, right? It's one thing if you have, a 6-foot guy just jacking up threes, and it's like, oh, well, you shoot like this. And it's like, well, I'm not 6 feet. My hands aren't as small as yours, right? Like, there's a reason why a lot of big fellas aren't good at shooting free throws or three-point shots. But Victor is this anomaly. Victor is this outlier. Well, so is Lauri Markkanen. And I think, now there is a little bit more of a relatability in like, hey, no, like, yeah, I have hands that, yeah, I'm not as big as yours because you're like 5 inches taller, but, I am still 7 feet. I am still a big guy that is able to stretch the floor and do things that, you want to improve in also, and let me help you in that regard. And then, again, just having Lauri Markkanen be down he's not this like elite defensive guy. He's not this like high tier shot blocker, but he is still long, lengthy, and 7 feet, right? And Victor Wembanyama and the defense he's able to create and how good he is on the defensive side of things, I mean, I just think you have these two trees down. And I mean, if you wanted to go big, you could. Right? Like, I mean, you could even go like and run at times where you have, maybe a John Collins, Lauri Markkanen at the 3, Victor Wembanyama at the 4. Like, now you got 3 7-footers that you have to go out to. And Lauri Markkanen's really good at kind of just creating and using his length to create the space and then be able to close out on the defensive side of things. I genuinely like the idea of Lauri Markkanen on the Spurs if you're able to get him. But I also think that if you do that, to me, that signals that the Spurs are trying, like, you got to make a push now, right? Like, to me, if you go trade for Lauri Markkanen, yes, he's only 27, so, even in 5 years, he's 32. And his game, I don't really see necessarily aging poorly, right? Because he is kind of just spot-up perimeter oriented. Again, he's capable of doing other things, but, he likes to basically just stand out on the perimeter and knock down the 3 ball. To me, it's like, I don't think he would age poorly, but still 27, right? And if you're going and getting an all-star level guy like that, you're getting that guy to try to win ASAP. You're doing that now to try to put yourself in a position to, contend for a championship in the next year or two. So to me, if you get Lauri Markkanen, I don't think you can just get Lauri Markkanen and then call it a year, right? Like, okay, we got Lauri, that's it. Let's just add Lauri to Victor Wembanyama, because I don't think that that's enough to win a championship yet. But I do think, like, if you get another piece or two, you're there. I think, like, you're very close, right? Especially if Victor takes another leap and step, right? Like, again, if you were able to go get, say, Chris Paul, or let's say you go trade for Darius Garland, right? Let's say you have, like, Garland, Vassell, you have Markkanen, Collins and Victor. Sounds like a pretty good squad to me. I think that's something that could really get something done. And then, maybe, like I said, have Chris Paul off the bench or something. Now you're in business. I mean, luckily the Spurs, they have money. They have assets. They have the ability, if they want to go make a push and do something now, right? I think that Victor being as good as he was, I think there is this incentive of like, all right, you got to get this done ASAP, right? Like, again, I'm not saying that they have to go all in this offseason, but I don't think that they should wait, 3 to 5 years. And it's just like, okay, we're slowly building. And I just think you have a generational talent. Get it done now, right? Get it in now, right? Obviously, if there's nothing there, you don't want to force the issue. But if you can start, piecing together, like let's say you get a Lauri Markkanen and, something else, right? Like, okay, well then next year you go get, something else, right? And it's like, okay, now by year 3, it's like, okay, we're competing for a championship. Let's go. It's championship or bust this year. That's kind of my thought process. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of Lauri Markkanen on the Spurs? Do you think, no, they should go elsewhere? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.